The Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry is Canberra-based. Our members are the state-based chambers of commerce, through them the local chambers, plus about 30 national associations. So our membership is around about 300,000 businesses, predominantly SMEs. So we spend a lot of time working with particularly the federal government to ensure that they stay out of the way. And quite seriously, that's on the whole what we need what we need government to do. That said, it's important that the right policy positions are put in place, and we were pretty pleased with the federal budget. We thought that, taking into account they didn't have any money, they probably spent the money that they had in the small business space reasonably appropriately. But, and you know, I'm not going to go through what was in the budget or what wasn't, but I think increasing the limit for instant asset write-downs, reducing company tax rates for small businesses and personal tax rates for unincorporated small businesses, a few of those sort of things all just help a little bit. But as you heard, 2 million businesses in Australia are small businesses. 96% of Australian businesses are small businesses. We employ something like 7 million Australians, which of course is the majority of the workforce. Right now in Australia we have just under 800,000 people who are unemployed and just under 300,000 young people who don't have a job. If just half of Australian small businesses employed one more person, we wouldn't have a problem. Now I know that sort of sounds a bit out there, but for you guys, you get your business up and running, you'll employ one extra person and potentially lots more than one extra person. And that flows through the whole economy. So why we are so keen to see you're all successful is because Australia desperately needs that to happen. You would have seen, well, you might not have, because you probably don't spend nearly as much time as I do playing, you know, watching what happens in the political arena, which would be a very sensible approach for you, I can tell you. Don't do what I do. Quite seriously though, one of the things that we know in Australia at the moment is we have to increase our productivity. We need to increase our productivity by about 3% a year. We haven't done that for a very long time in Australia. And why do we need to do it? Because without that, we can't maintain our quality of life, or we can't maintain the sort of increases in quality of life we've had in Australia over the last 20 years. So that's got to happen. How do we increase productivity? We increase productivity by doing the sorts of things you guys are doing, by utilising resources better, by empowering customers, by using things that we don't use now, or by using things that we do use now a whole heap better. And that's, I think, fundamentally where a whole range of new technology, particularly disruptive technologies, end up coming from. How do we do what we do better? How do we utilise unused resources? How do we use our power better? How do we use cars better that aren't currently being used? I mean, all sorts of things. This really matters. One of the things that the federal government is planning to do very shortly, we'd like it to, should have already happened, but it hasn't, and that's to legislate the requirements around crowdsourcing of funding, of equity funding in Australia. Now, it's possible to do it now, as you know, but the regulatory framework is not in place. And one of the things that we're working with them on is to make sure that it's not overly intrusive. So the regulatory framework that will be put around crowd sourcing of equity funding in Australia needs to be closer to New Zealand than to some of the other regimes that exist around the world. So with a bit of luck, that will be in place before the end of the year, and that will give another avenue to sourcing funding. And I think many of you will have found that unless you own a house, sometimes raising capital can be a tiny bit difficult. I know that many of my son bought a business last year, and without the bank of mum, or mum's house, as the case may be, that may not have happened. So we're working really, really hard to ensure that there is access to capital for startups like you guys. I just want to leave you with one statistic that I always find incredibly worrying. That right now in Australia, only 30% of those small businesses I spoke about earlier are properly digitally engaged. So they don't have proper websites. They're not operating in the digital environment. We also know that if they were, their profitability would be 30% higher than it is at the moment, and they would have employed 2 extra people. Now, that really matters, doesn't it? So how do we make it easier for small businesses, you guys are in the tech space, but small businesses that aren't, to become digitally engaged, to be able to have smart websites, to be operating online, to be able to be doing the business that they're in more efficiently and better. There's a challenge. But without that, those businesses will continue to struggle from a profit perspective and not be employing those people we want to. So our challenge is to make it simple, to make it easy, and to make businesses understand how to get online, how to become digitally engaged simply. Simple steps, something that everyone can do, and we know that it's not expensive. So there's one of our challenges, and it's one of maybe your challenges as well, to find out how we can do this better, how we can enable, engage Australian businesses in the digital arena, do so easily and cost effectively, and take away the worry. Absolutely, a great pleasure to be here tonight. Good luck to all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all succeed and employ all of those young Australians that don't have jobs at the moment. Thanks very much.